All right, welcome everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cereal Box Prize Podcast, the podcast that serves you three scoops of pop culture. And this is another episode of our Toy Owl segment, and we are getting into the Transformer film universe. To my left, I got Aaron. Aaron, how you doing, man?
Doing great, doing great. How you doing tonight?
You know, uh, getting ready to talk about Transformer movies. And to my right, I got Ben. Ben, what's going on?
Hey,
And I got Jake. Jake, how's it going, brother?
going pretty well, man. I'm very excited to talk about these movies.
Well, that's awesome because you are our bread and butter when it comes to these films. So I'm glad that you're on this tonight. So, all right, guys, Transformers, the movies. So I'm trying to remember, when did the first film come out for Transformers? Like, what was the first date?
July 20. No, it was July 17th, 2007. Yeah.
Wow,
Wow.
2007.
Because
Wow.
they changed the date. It was initially they had a date set. What was it? 747, I think. Yeah. And a bunch of the toys referenced 747. Like they had a toy that turned into a cell phone, and the time was 7:47. But then Harry Potter was coming out that day, and so they changed the date so that it would come out on a different day than Harry Potter. And so all the toys that had 747 somewhere on them were wrong. Yep, which was hilarious.
I remember that being like, wait, what? Why is
I was mad. I'm like, screw Harry Potter, man.
Honestly, I'm okay that they did it because it gave me 5 different films and made Transformers people come back. So it's fine.
Yeah,
Did
But
they
Potter
ever-
absolutely kicked its ass?
Did they ever go back and change the toys so that the date matched up, or did they just leave it 747?
No, so Japan had a different release date for the movie, obviously. And their versions of those toys, the stickers reference the Japanese release date, if I'm not mistaken. But it's
Okay.
just stickers. So because, Japan generally gets stuff later than the US, they had time to change their sticker layouts.
Okay,
Okay.
interesting.
So here's my question. Who went to the theaters to go watch this film?
Not me.
All right. So what was your overall excitement as Transformers fans? Like when you're waiting in line, you're buying that ticket, you got your popcorn ready, like what were you feeling inside before stepping into the theater?
Oh my god! It was like Optimus Prime and the Autobots are going to be on the big screen, like the big screen. I was so pumped because I had gotten my Jazz figure, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's gonna be like so amazing!" And I was so pumped, and I went like the premiere date of it. Like my parents were like, "He loves Transformers. Let's just do it. Let's just get all the tickets, do whatever we can, get the full stupid, expensive ass experience, and let's just do it." Oh my god, it was amazing. And now looking back at it, it's like, man, I love that film. I don't know why I loved it that much, but I loved it.
What about you, Ben? What was your excitement level?
So I had to travel to see it on opening day. We had to go to a town about 40 miles from where I lived at the time, and I went with my dad. And it was not a crowded theater because it was a fairly small town. But I would say my excitement was kind of like an 8 or 9 out of 10 at least. It's like, that I've been waiting for my whole life for Transformers to be as popular as it was during G1, which I largely missed being, a little bit too young for that. And so I'm like, oh my God, this is it. We're finally going to be vindicated in the public eye as a legitimate fan-based franchise. Like Star Wars and Marvel and stuff, where they all had this big dedicated following to the point where people who are outside the hobby know about what goes on, because everybody's seen Star Wars. You don't have to be a Star Wars fan to know that Darth Vader is Luke's father. And I was like, maybe we'll finally get there with Transformers. And I left the theater feeling a little Oh. Like it was, I was like,
Maybe
this
not.
was cool, I guess. Like there was just there were so many parts where like, you know, the first time they introduced all the Autobots and they got the big sweeping like Hollywood orchestra soundtrack and the dramatic lighting and I am Optimus Prime. We are the Autobots from so and it's like, oh my god, and it made the hair on my arm stand on end. But then they had other parts like Sam's mom banging on his bedroom door, like telling him it's okay, he's jacking off, and it's just like, oh no. And I'm like sitting like this to cover up my Transformers T-shirt, you know, all scrunched up on myself. It's like, oh no, what did they do?
See, I had the opposite of that reaction when I was in the theater when they were like, "Hey, we it's okay to masturbate, Sam." I was like, "What? Masturbate?" I was 10. I was like, "That must be some football term. I don't know. Whatever. We'll just go aside from that." I remember asking my mom, just sitting right next to me, and she was just like, well, that's a complicated question. Watch the movie. I'll tell you later." And of course, that was 2 hours later, and I completely forgot. I hope you forget.
Jake, what are you doing in that bedroom? Nothing, mother.
The TV's all
Trying to
scrambled.
figure things out, man.
Aaron, what about you, man? I know you didn't go to the theaters, but what was your reaction watching
So
this?
I don't know. It's like talking about it. Like I mean,
Yeah.
I was in college at that point, and I or maybe I just graduated college, I was like, oh shit, like now that we're talking about it, I did go to the theaters. I enjoyed it because like I mean, I was a Transformers fan, but like when you think about like the first movie that happened, you know, that we grew up with, you know, Steve and I, like we got the animated movie, which was like traumatizing to us as a child, you know. So
Yeah.
I don't think anything could have been as bad as that. But no, I mean, like when you saw, like I was impressed because I liked the transformations that Michael Bay did. Like when you can go from vehicle mode to bot mode, you know, I thought those were really cool. And I mean, Linkin Park was the shit, you know. That is so like when Linkin Park at that, you know, that last song, you know, you're like, okay, you know, I walked out of the movie happy, but you know, I don't think I had as much writing on it. You know, I wasn't like invested into it like like Star Wars. Like I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Like there was I think the newest one, episode 7.
Yeah.
I told my wife I almost walked out of the movie. I was like, no, it was episode 8. Episode 8. I was like, I walked out of the movie. I was like, I can't do this. Like, this is no. Like Leia's flying through the air, and I'm like, no. And I turned to my wife, and she was like, literally like, are you gonna walk out? And I was like, I'm this close. Like, I can't do it. So I think with Transformers, I wasn't that invested. So I enjoyed it as a fan of the franchise and just kind of the CGI aspects of it.
Yeah,
No,
I would describe it as very mixed because, like you said, there were certain parts of it where it's like, oh man, this is awesome. This is exactly what I'm here for. The
Mhm.
CGI was a big part of it because it was so complex. It's like, yeah, these are obviously alien robots now. You know, there's no way that this would be like an Earth technology because of the designs and how they just, you know, move and flow like, you know, living beings.
Mhm.
But then there's the really cringy stuff where I was like, oh, what am I doing here? I don't know, honestly. I don't know if I cringed as hard as you did when Leia was flying through outer space.
But you cringed at the scene where, you know, they're talking about masturbation. So,
Well, and
you know.
there was just like stuff that just came off as like I get that it's supposed to be a kids franchise, but there were things in the movies generally, and I guess less so in the first one, that came off to me as being just juvenile,
Yeah.
not like little kid juvenile, but like shitty middle schooler juvenile.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, come on, man, because I was in college too by that point. And it's just like, I wanted this to be a grown-up movie because I wanted it to be a grown-up thing, And then the other thing is I did have a lot riding on it, not even just my personal tastes, but like when those movies came out, I had people from my childhood reach out to me and be like, "Hey, I saw Transformers is not a new movie, and it made me think of you." Like I was that guy. People knew me as that Transformers guy from high school or grade school even.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd get people that shoot me an email, "Hey, yeah, I see the Transformers is a big movie now. Hey, it made me think of you." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it is. Please don't go see it. It's embarrassing." Like, I want you to see Transformers as I saw it through, my childhood eyes.
Yeah.
And the movies, that was not the vision that I had for it. I don't think that was really the vision that any like longtime Transformer fans had for it. I know that the 86 movie, which I'm just gonna drop here. I was born the day the 86 movie premiered. So I mean,
Wow.
something's our fate, I think.
Destiny.
Yeah, Destiny. There
like
you go. Yeah.
That had an impact on me, and that was like, oh my god, this is like telling a real story about all these different races and factions of Transformers have to band together to fight Unicron, and like right. Megatron is so selfish that he betrays his own guys and comes back as Galvatron and blows everybody up that doesn't like him enough. And that was like real to me. And of course the music was awesome, that 80s power rock. And so like I wish that people could have experienced what I experienced, not exactly like the same plot, but just the feelings that I experienced from the 86 movie with the new movies. And like I don't think that in any of the 5 Michael Bay films was there a part where I felt some strong emotion other than irritation or cringe.
Yeah.
Like I was never on the verge of tears when Optimus dies,
You want to take your eyeballs out of your socket after watching that film. Jake, so let's get into a little summary of the film, like the plot synopsis, because I'm trying to remember it in my head. And Jake, you're pretty good when it comes to summarizing things. Can you give the audience like what is the plot in this first film? Like I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, what is the plot?
So the basic summary of the movie is there is the Autobots and Decepticons, and it's the easiest fucking story that when it's baseline, like basic shit. How do we introduce new people to this almost dead franchise by this point? Again, how do we do this?
Right.
Okay. So Autobots and Decepticons are fighting again. Autobots need to come to Earth and get some humans to come and talk to them and fight with them to beat the bad guys. Movie done. But with the actual movie, it gets a little bit more complicated because there's not much Transformer, but there's a whole shit ton of human.
Whole shit ton of Shia LeBeouf.
Not even
Megan
just
LaFox.
Not even Shia, just U.S. military. I mean, like,
it was an Army recruitment commercial.
Biggest hard-on for U.S. military. And as a kid, I never thought about it, but as an adult, I'm like, oh, God.
But hey, you guys want to join the military? You can see Transformers.
You guys are gonna go fight giant scorpions and die immediately. That's what you wanted, right? Come on down. Sign everybody else in the rest of America up.
Well, listen, the Iraq War was waning in popularity. People were starting to catch on, and they're like, "No, man, they got giant alien scorpions. We got it. We had to take them out.
Shit's hard, man, when you're fighting giant scorpions." So, the beginning of the movie starts with the U.S. military base being attacked by Blackout, who is wanting to gather information about specifically trying to find Megatron because they somehow know that he's on Earth. Don't know how they know that, but they know.
Okay.
They also know that the Allspark is here, and they're also trying to find that. So they download a bunch of information before the internet gets cut, and then we move on to our main character, Sam Witwicky, who's an awkward, geeky dork nerd who has no money and is getting his first car. So he gets his first car, which turns out to be Bumblebee, after Bumblebee shatters literally every window inside of this poor, struggling black man's used car lot to try and make him buy it for $4,000.
Wasn't that Bernie Mac?
Sam's
I think
poor
it was
Bernie Mac is just trying to make a
Bernie
living.
Mac.
And Ron Witwicky had to come over and not pay $4,000 for Bumblebee. So Sam gets the car. He basically fucks around for a few 30 minutes until he meets Michaela, and then it's introduced that she will be our lead female in the movie. If you couldn't tell by her almost like under boob top at being supposed to be like 16 and her assless chap shorts and the highest, thickest heels I've ever seen a 16-year-old wear. So basically from there we find out that the U.S. military is trying to figure out what the hell came and attacked the base in Qatar, and they are seeing if they can get a group of hackers or some type of an elite, technologically advanced people to try and help the U.S. military figure out what the hell happened and who attacked. And then on the sideline from that, we're seeing the U.S. military of Josh Duhamel and
You know what?
crew trying to escape Scorponok, who's attacking them, and they're also trying to lead a child back to his dad's home. This happens.
Wow. So Jay,
There's
you know
three
what's
plots
crazy?
in this movie, dude.
Yeah. So okay. Now that you're explaining this, like I'm seeing the film through my head right now, and it's exactly what you just said. It's 30 minutes of Shia LaBeouf, whatever, with Bumblebee, and then it's just military, like you said, more military stuff, more, and I'm like, wow, like we haven't really gotten into any Transformers yet. Like,
No, it takes the movie an hour and a half to get into the Transformers shit.
wow.
This is a 2 hour and a half movie, by the way.
Oh my god.
It was either two.
It was 2 hours and I think 20 or 15 minutes, around there. And that's a lot from your audience, by the way. When you're like, I have no idea what's happening.
That's a lot to take in, man. And
Yeah.
like you said, you got three. You got the main plot and the two subplots going on in the back, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah, and
man,
the way the script treats it, it's like those are also main plots. Because like Sam's is a main plot,
right.
but you know Sergeant Epps and all of the other military that got attacked by Blackout is a main plot, and then the military trying to figure out what attacked the U.S. government is a main plot. Like they're all kind of
Oh my
plots at
god.
the same time. They all get the same amount of coverage. Like it's like 15 minutes here, cut. 15 minutes here, cut. Like it just keeps going. For like an hour and a half. It's just like that. It's just a giant chunkier movie.
So here's my question: who wrote the first script?
There were 3 different writers.
I knew it. I just, and this is why I'm asking this because,
That
Aaron,
makes
go ahead.
sense.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was
Aaron?
just gonna say that makes sense because if there's 3 different writers and there's 3 different plot points, then you got your part A, your part B, part C, and they just like Michael Bay goes, okay, we'll do all of them. You know.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Alex Kurtzman, which you guys may know who that is,
Yep.
wrote most of the script for Transformers. They went to him. They said, "Hey, we're trying to make a reboot of this franchise that's been here since the '80s. Make it easy, make it fun, and make it just super heartwarming for kids. He came
Jake,
in
you
there and
said
did this
Jake,
thing.
you said make it easy.
Yeah, right?
Make it
He also
easy.
said make it fun. Yeah, there was a couple things that they might have gotten a little fucked up, but I digress. He came in, and Alex Kurtzman, I personally don't like his writing. I think that his writing is very like more emotion than
Yeah.
thought. Like a
Yep.
lot of it is just like, oh, you're feeling something. You're feeling the emotions of the characters instead of them making a logical conclusion to the situation. It's just like, well, how are we going to get past this like big bad guy? I don't know. I guess power of friendship or some shit. It's like on that level of just like, what the fuck? How did they get there?
The only part of those movies that's effective at even conveying emotion, though, is the music, the scoring. That's the only thing that kind of carries you along with it in any
Yes.
fashion.
Steve Jablonsky, not Jablonsky. Sorry,
Jablonski.
not
Jabroni.
not Jablonsky game.
Jabron.
Jablonsky, Steve Jablonsky was and is still an amazing composer. He composed all of the movies, I think, except for 5 and Bumblebee. He went all the way up to 4, and he did an amazing job in all of those. And that soundtrack carries the movie.
Yes,
They
it does.
are really, really good. Just listening to them on their own, you're like,
Yeah.
damn, you feel the emotion in this. You can feel it in the actual like composing of the music. It's very, very good just by itself.
Yeah, man, I really agree with you guys with the music, with you and Ben, and like I feel like when I was watching the film, and I did go on YouTube and listen to the score, like the soundtrack and stuff, and the score, and like it's really, really good, man. Like, and it does carry the film. But Jake, so like, all right, so we got up to this point. When are we gonna see like Optimus and these guys now? Like we're up to this point right now. It's been what, like an hour and something already into the movie now?
I think when I left off, I was 30 minutes into the movie or so.
Okay.
Maybe 45 minutes. So we then cut back to Sam after the battle with Scorponok and the military defeating Scorponok. We cut back to Sam, and it's around like nighttime, and his car starts up, and he follows it on a bike, and it's his mom's bike, which is a pink girly frilly bike. So that's funny. You're supposed to laugh now. That's what they thought when they wrote the script.
That's what they thought. That's...
And so he follows him on the bike. He sees that Bumblebee, his car, turns into a transformer.
There we go. Finally,
a signal into the sky, and is trying to communicate or talk to Optimus Prime, telling him that they're here. You need to come here. This is where everything is.
All right, now let me ask you this: when you saw that part sitting in the theater and Bumblebee transformed, and now he's calling up to Optimus, this is the point where you're in your seat and you're like, "Here we go!" Like these guys are gonna come down. Like your excitement must have been like insane.
No, actually, it was the complete opposite. When I saw that, I was like, "Oh shit, that Scorponok battle was awesome. I loved that." And then I get back to Sam, because guess what? When he's sitting there looking at Bumblebee make his signal into the sky, you don't see Bumblebee transform. It's just like Sam looks over a ledge, Bumblebee's there, and he's just standing up. And I'm like, wait, was that Bumblebee? Because it just is like, it's like, boom, cut, it's done. Like, we're done looking at that. It took long enough for us to get the fucking fog over Bumblebee, okay? We got paid like nothing. So after that,
Hey,
Sam,
by the way, that shot that you just said just cost him $50 million. Just so you know, that one shot was 50 mil.
So after that, Sam makes a voice recording talking about like, if you find porno mags under my bed, it wasn't me, it was Uncle Miles. He like gave them to me or whatever, random bullshit.
Because that's not creepy at all.
He calls the police. No, wait, he was on the police riding after Bumblebee. He then sees Bumblebee leave. He goes to walk after him. He gets chased by some dogs. Bumblebee saves him from the dogs. Police arrest him. Cut to, it's morning. There's a police chief on drugs talking to Sam about how he's going to shoot him because he thinks Sam's on drugs. This is really happening in the movie. I'm not making this up. And then he shows him his gun and says, "You looking at my piece, 50 Cent? I will bust you up." They make a funny joke, haha, and scene.
Okay,
And
are we? Wow, we gotta be at least an hour and something into this movie already.
now we're getting into it.
Yeah.
When you saw the few scenes of things happening, was not the beginning. This is now the beginning.
This is now the beginning.
It took an hour to get into.
So when they told these guys, make it easy, make it a script that it's cohesive for people to follow. You know, we want people that don't know about Transformers. Yeah, we got it. And then like all this shit is happening. Like we still haven't even got into like all the Transformers yet.
I'm gonna say this, and I know that people like to blame everything on Michael, but I honestly do think that it was a little bit of him, especially with the random quippy jokes, because that's Michael's humor. If you watch any of his other movies, even before Transformers, it's
Bad Boys,
all that kind of shit. So I think it was him like, okay, we have to add a joke in here to make it funny, make it sense, because it's a harsh scene. We got to end it with a joke, make it as little lighthearted, so it's not as tense for the audience or something. You know, his like director brain started going on, and then it made the movie like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Because clearly, what you want in an action adventure movie is to relieve all the tension constantly. You don't want to have any tension building up.
Here's the thing. Now this is an offshoot of this, but every movie, if you pay attention, even Disney movies like Marvel stuff, does that same thing. Joss Whedon does it a lot, where it's like really harsh scene, very intense, quippy joke, kind of deflates the tension, so you can just be like, oh, haha, okay.
Yeah.
That's like what people like. Thor Ragnarok does it. Yeah, it's a big comedy, but like a lot of shit is just like, ooh, it's super tense. Here's a joke. Like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 did that a lot, where they're just like, I love Guardians of the Galaxy 2. That's like
that was a jokey movie.
And it was just like, boom.
You actually get to accomplish something before relieving some of the tension.
Yeah.
But the plot tension remains there in a good movie.
I feel like Star Wars probably started that, like George Lucas, like the originals, because like, you know, C-3PO and R2-D2 were kind of like the comedy relief in the originals, you know, and like, but I feel like there was less of it in like the Star Wars movies, but I feel like that maybe kind of paved the way for these other directors to like, okay, well, we can have this like intense thing and then something funny. But I think it kind of like grabs, I don't know, it kind of like you said, lessens the mood. But, you know, I think that, you know, people sometimes don't want to be in the seat like this for, you know, 2 hours and 25 minutes. You know, they could like have that, haha, okay, you know, let's have a little laugh and then get into like a more serious. It's almost like a transition, but if you do it too much, like with the newer Star Wars movies, I felt like that, like they're horrible because there's too much comedy.
Yes.
And like, so I feel like in this movie too, like the Transformers movie, there's almost like too many of those little quips. You know, if you probably knocked it down by like.
Quips fall so flat in the movie.
It's because it's easy jokes. If you literally look at how like even Ghostbusters, which is my biggest example of like having good comedy in a tense situation,
right?
And it works. Somehow it works. Like when Bill Murray gets attacked by Slimer, you hear it over the mic and you think like, "Oh shit, it's bad," and then it goes over to him and he's covered in slime and he's like, "Oh, he slimed me." It's like, "Oh, okay, he's good." Or like when
the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man too.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, Stay Puft Marshmallow is a good one, but I was meaning what's her face?
Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver when she turns into Zool.
And she's like,
and he's like, okay, she's a dog. It makes it funny. Like, I personally don't like that line. It's not the greatest line in the movie. They have way more, but like, that's a good transition to be like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, it's even though you just saw her literally like as a gargoyle next to a fucking living god. He's like, okay, so she's a dog. It makes it funny instead of like, I don't know, like, what's his name? What's his name in Finn's best friend in the new movies? the new Star Wars movies. What's his name?
Oh,
Isaac.
yeah. Oh, I forgot the
He
guy's
made
name.
like a Yo Mama joke in fucking episode 9.
Yeah, he did actually.
He was literally like, or not episode 9, episode 8, Last Jedi.
Yeah.
He was literally like,
that
he's
really
like
threw me
bombing.
off.
He's bombing the Star Destroyers, and he's on the phone with them, and they're like, "Who is this?" And he makes a Yo Mama joke, and I'm like, "Bro, it's not 1999."
Yo, what's up, dog?
It's like, who is this and who's talking? Your mother? It's like, wow, awesome. That's like $80 million script right there, guys.
So here's a question though. Like, who was this? Like, I mean, now that I'm kind of like thinking about this, who was this movie directed towards? Like, what age
question.
demographic was
Good
the
question.
first?
All of them. We haven't been. Yeah, it's kind of like it was one of those movies where it's like we got to grab everybody.
Right.
Cast a wide net, catch a lot of fish. Here's the thing. It did.
Right. And I think that's probably the problem why, like, as we watch this movie, when you watched it when you were 10, you had different feels than when you watch it when you're, 36, when I watched it when I was 22, like, I mean, it just seems like you said, they went in a wide berth with like their demographic. You had to have the cool looking Transformers so the young kids would be like, oh man, these are awesome, with the action figures and the toys. You had to have like these quippy little lines for the teenagers, and then you had to have some serious stuff for the adults, like, or the military, being like, okay, this is going to be kind of like a pro-military movie,
Yeah, they didn't really know what they were doing in a way. Like, you can say they did because the movie made $700, $800 million when everything was said and done. It made stupid money in total, and like it sold a shit ton of toys. It sold a lot of stuff. Merchandise is out the wazoo for Transformers movie stuff. So it sold a lot, and it did what it needed to do. So to Hasbro and Paramount and people that are directing it and just wanted the money, it did what it needed to do, and it did it well.
But it was definitely a case of jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
Which I would put it in the same bucket as like the Star Wars prequel trilogy. It's like, okay, you got Jar Jar Binks, who's a cartoon character for like little kids. Like kids who are like, oh, he talks funny, ha ha ha. But then at the same time you have like the Galactic Senate and doing like interplanetary politics.
Yeah.
I'm into politics, and those scenes are boring. So it's like, okay, is this a kids movie with pod racing and funny cartoon Jar Jar and him getting tangled up with the battle droids and oh, look at that slapstick humor, or is it a grown-up movie where it's like, oh well, you see, the Nemoidians are trying to steal Naboo's natural resources, and the indigenous people of Naboo haven't even bothered to consult the population of Gungans with whom they share the planet. And clearly, this is a violation of our trade treaties. And so, if you don't, reverse your
it turns into a CNN debate.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh my god,
it's some political CNN.
And it's like, okay, it would be like CNN, but every time you cut to commercial break, it comes back as SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah,
and just like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, you're like, okay, well, this is a movie you should bring your kids to because look at haha funny Jar Jar Binks, but also, this is a movie that grown Star Wars fans should go see because it's developing the backstory of like how did the Galactic Empire form from the ashes of the Republic and all this stuff about like the Jedi Order used to be, powerful and keep peace in the galaxy, and how did that deteriorate into just like space Nazis that crush every, piece of opposition. And it's like, okay, that's supposed to be like an interesting intellectual story. And then both audiences go in there and both of them are pissed off half the time they're there. Like the kids are like, this is boring. I'm bored. Can we go now? During the Senate scenes, and the adults, every time Jar Jar comes on, the adults are going,
oh,
I want to go home now.
Listen, I'm
So-
going to give it to you in the
The
best way.
Transformers did
I'm
that.
going to give you in the best way to explain what the prequels did, which Lucas said it best. I may have went a little bit worse in some parts.
Yeah.
Except Michael Bay never fessed up and said, I may have gone a little bit too far in some parts.
Yeah.
He's like, no, we got to keep all those jokes about the dogs
It's because
in the backyard
it's because
doing each other.
people came to him and they were like, "Your movie did amazing. Make another one." And he was like, "It did? Okay, I guess."
Well, it's about the money.
Even Michael
So-
Bay himself was confused. Wait, we made money out of this movie?
I mean, that's what he literally, like, Steven Spielberg knew Michael. He was like, "Oh, I know your dad." I think he knew. No, he knew Michael somehow, and he had been on his team for fucking ever in Paramount. He was like, "I know you make big movies, so here's your big movie. It's for a kids franchise." And Michael was like, "I'm not doing that first." And then they said, "I'll give you $1 billion." And he said, "Okay, you changed my mind." And so when that happened, Michael was like, "Okay, we're going to do it this way, and we're going to do it that way." They handed him the script. The guy had no fucking clue how to make a kids movie.
Oh,
So
man.
it is like we said, just
Right.
it kind of tries to give everybody a chance. Where it's like, look at the military parts, where it's like, ooh, yeah, adults understand it. And it's like, look at hot Megan Fox, she's so hot, dude. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
she's
boy.
16, bro, that's creepy. And then it's like, oh, look at the Transformers, and the 8-year-olds or 10-year-olds in the audience. We're like, hey man, that's the tight shit. I want that.
I want that, yeah.
But if you
Hey,
try to please everybody, you please nobody.
Sometimes it works. See, here's the thing though, is that you can make a good kids movie and it appeal to everybody. Disney has found out their formula. They know their people. That's why they're still in business, making billions and billions of dollars.
Yep.
Fuckers have a theme park, so it's like they got to be doing something right.
What was the budget on this film? Do we know what the budget was for this?
The budget was.
I'm trying to.
147 million.
We usually take that and we usually multiply it, like we use the red letter media scale, which is usually you take the budget and then you multiply it by 2, which gives you the advertising fees and all that.
Oh,
And then however much they made back, so I think it was like 700 million or whatever it was, and they made like some serious profit. Like you spent 110 million, or you spent more or less 220 million, you made 700 million back. That's a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
We're like,
yeah, that is a lot. That is a lot of money. Oh man, this movie, man. Jake, so back. Okay, now we're back to the plot. All right, so we're what, like an hour and something into this movie? Like now, where are we now? Are we gonna see these Transformers or what? Like,
yes, and in just a second.
No, dude.
We're gonna Game of Thrones it, but we're just gonna keep teasing you until it finally comes, and then you're gonna be like, "Oh, it happened." Did it? So then Sam, I think he
Do we at least get the barricade chase yet?
Yes.
Jesus
Yes, we're
Christ.
about to get to that. I was just about to get to that. He's riding his bike. I'm trying to remember what the hell happens, because I know something happens after the police scene with like the military. I know something happens, but I can't fucking remember it.
Probably they ride on a helicopter.
I don't know, but I know that like basically Sam is getting chased around by Bumblebee, and then he goes and finds he goes into like an abandoned, like random ass underbridge with like a bunch of abandoned cars. I'm like, yeah, that's safe for a child. And then Barricade shows up, so Barricade's finally here. We see one of the main Decepticons.
okay.
Sam tries to talk to him, and then Barricade just almost runs him over, transforms. He talks to him about the glasses, wants them. Sam runs away. Bumblebee hits Barricade. He runs into Michaela. Bumblebee saves both Sam and Michaela, and then they have a big, awesome racing scene with some awesome car riffs.
Because Michael Bay directed
Bat
commercials.
Yes, and
Yes.
and this scene is still fucking awesome to this day.
Yes, it is. I will say that was a good scene, man.
That was
Sponsored by Chevrolet.
it really was. It was like this piece of shit 70s Camaro now run a Shelby. Look
Yeah.
at that. So
There was a lot of advertising in this movie, man. A lot.
God,
Oh, yeah.
so much product placement.
So much product placement, but yeah.
the end scene in Mission City where like he hits the Allspark on the ground and it's like a Mountain Dew specific vending machine. I don't know about you guys. I've never fucking seen a Mountain Dew specific vending machine that all the options are just Mountain Dew.
Just
It's
Mountain Dew.
well over 20 buttons with just Mountain Dew.
Yo,
on
what's
it.
up, gamers? We hear you like Mountain Dew.
Yeah, and it's like an Xbox gets possessed and then a Cadillac gets possessed. Like
Oh
they
my god.
Like,
The-
dude, seriously?
Dell laptop, an Electrolux
It's
blender.
like a
No, I think Nokia's
Yeah.
were probably big back then. I think
Yeah,
Nokia's.
Nokia.
yeah.
Yeah, so much product placement. Like somebody, like Nokia went up to like Michael Bay, was like, "Hey, can we just have our phone in this shot?" I don't know. Or here's $50 million. Of course. Yeah.
Well, that was like.
Yeah, no, why would I ever say no?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that was like in the Matrix. Like there was that Nokia phone. I remember I wanted one as a kid so bad because it was like a flip phone and you could like plug something into it and like a keyboard and like it was like, oh shit, like the Matrix phone. Like I remember that would be like, I want one of those because it was in the Matrix. Like
It
who
worked.
ca-
It worked.
it worked. I never got one because they were like $500, but
Yeah. So after that, Bumblebee and Michaela are driving down the road. No, the chase scene happens. The fight scene happens.
Yep.
Bumblebee kicks Barricade's ass. Sam gets his pants torn off. Frenzy gets his head cut off and turns into Michaela's phone. And then they are driving down the road. Bumblebee scans the new Camaro. Please go buy it.
It'll be available in 3 years.
It'll be available in 2010. And then they finally roll up to this museum.
Okay.
And you see the Autobots finally come in.
Fine.
And it's
Okay.
a scene where they finally come in. It's been an hour and 45 minutes.
Wow. So we are almost 2 hours into this movie,
Yes.
and we're finally getting to the Autobots.
Yes. And then the Autobots crash. They scan their cars. We get to the alley scene, and god damn, this scene is still amazing. This scene is so cool still, where it's like sweeping camera shots of just like, here's Prime's shin turning into this and then going in, and there's like truck wheels go up onto his thigh, and then they splay, and then they
That was awesome.
hit,
yeah.
and his face molds back, and then everybody else is doing shit.
Speaking of the alley scene, as they're introducing all the Autobots, the boy's pheromone levels indicate he wants to mate with the female.
Listen, you could have had the old Doctor Man say fucking anything else.
This sweaty earthling thinks he can get in that hot chick's pants.
That's literally. It's like you could have made him be like, why is your heart rate up so much? Have you not ever seen Aliens? And I would have been like, oh, haha, that's funny. Instead, he's like, hey, that young kid wants to fuck that girl. It's just like, okay, great, awesome, good kids movie.
That's what I call Shakespearean writing at its best.
Yeah, no, that right there.
Shakespearean writing at its best. So man, we finally. It's just boggling my mind. Like Aaron and Jake, you guys were talking about how there was like 3 script writers in this. Like you can tell 3 guys were sitting in a room, probably smoking a joint, probably just making up this shit. And it's like now we get to like almost 2 hours into this. Like we're finally up to this, and it's like Jesus Christ. Like
The thing that this movie feels like, it feels like they were like, okay, guys, so tomorrow you're going to go to the screening room. You're going to go and you 3 are going to write a script for this movie. And we want a couple different scripts because we want to have some drafts and everything. And they said, okay, yeah, we'll go do that. So they went to the script room. They started talking. They shuffled around a few ideas. They all wrote down the ideas. They handed it to Paramount and said, "Here's our ideas. Call us whenever you're ready." And then the next day happened, and they were like, "Hey, guys, we didn't hear back from you about writing that script." And they said, "What script? We have the idea." That's what this movie feels like. It feels like a bunch of ideas kind of just like together.
It does. It feels so convoluted, like just so much stuff. You know, have you guys ever heard of the YouTube channel Retro Blasting?
Yes.
Oh, no,
So Retro Blasting, the guy that's on it, he was working for the Voltron company for a little bit, and Voltron was supposed to have a movie come out. Right now, I'm going back 6, 7 years ago.
I thought Voltron was supposed to have a movie starting in like 2008 after Transformers was successful. Everybody's like, "Ooh, Voltron movie,
Yes,
Voltron," and then it never happened. It's been 15 years.
So the reason why it never happened, and the host for Retro Blasting on YouTube was because the head CEO of the Voltron company went up to him and was like, "Hey, listen, here's the Voltron script for the film. We want you to read this. We want to get your opinion on this." So he went to the hotel room, read the script, and he said no. And because he signed a what do you call it when you sign something where you can't talk about
non-disclosure agreement.
NDA.
Right, because he signed an NDA, he couldn't really explain the plot to us, but what he said was like, what they had on that script would have made you throw up. And so that is why that movie still to this day has not gotten made. And I feel like when it comes to like these 80s and 90s properties, and you got to get somebody that's either a fan of it or knows about it, because it's like these three guys, like Ben, like you were Jake, like you were saying, like it just feels like a bunch of like ideas, just ideas that were just like, all right, let's just throw your idea in here. All right, military, yeah, we'll put your idea into that. There's no like cohesive like straight story to this, like.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's got that like whole jive to it. With we got a bunch of ideas, we have a bunch of things that we could put in there, and let's just do it. Let's just boom. And it doesn't feel well. It's got a lot of good moments to it.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part is that everything that people remember about the movie when they're like, "Oh, it's the Transformers." Yes, the Transformers is like barely in it. Like you have a couple scenes, like 3 or 4 major scenes with the Transformers.
Right.
Yep.
Up until the hour and a half mark, you have 4 different like scenes, major scenes that people care about, and that's like really, really obnoxious when your whole thing is trying to make a franchise about giant robots that are sentient that come here to Earth, and they're the characters. When I mean, everybody else has pointed this out right now still, but they are like their background. They're the background. Yeah. It's like this is the thing that you came for, but it's not in the forefront talking.
Right.
It's like looking at it's like you bought a picture of a mountain, and instead they took a picture of a bush with the mountain in the background.
Yep.
That's what this movie feels like.
That's a really good analogy, because like the more you think about that, like, you know, I mean, you don't see the Transformers. I mean, it's all Shia LaBeouf, Megan Fox, you know, all the characters. You see people, you see the army, you see this, like, you know, but like you said at the beginning of the movie, when Scorponok's coming out, you're like, oh shit, here we go, you know, and then you don't see anything for, you know, God knows how long.
You don't even really see Scorponok clearly, because he's always like kicking up all this sand. And it's not until they shoot his tail off and they have it laid out on like an exam room table, you're like, oh, that's what he looked like.
Yeah,
I already knew because I owned the toy, but that was the only reason I knew.
Yeah, and then it's just like, you know, we see Megatron, and Megatron's in the cold chamber or whatever, right? Because I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but you see Megatron, and he's like, you know, frozen in the Sector 7, you know,
the big ice block.
Right, and then it's like, okay, now, like you said, an hour and 45 minutes in, now here's where shit's about to get real.
Yeah, that was like the biggest problem with the movie, and everybody realizes that. Thankfully, they're not like the nostalgic goggles. People can actually like remove them and feel like objectively this is a bad movie, but I still love it. I mean, I'm one of those people where I'm like, look, man, objectively, these movies are not very good. Like, I love them. They are my childhood. But that does not mean that they are good. And that's where I like differentiate from other people.
But I think when you think back on the movies though, like at least from my perspective, is that like I remember that scene that you just described where Optimus, first turns from bot into, or from vehicle into bot mode, and you're like going, oh my god, like that CGI and that like those movements and the gears and the visor coming down, like you remember that and you're like, oh yeah, that I think you remember. It's almost like you put your bad memories in like your mind as a way of putting your bad memories and like protecting itself and being like, okay, we're not going to remember that, but we're going to remember the really cool parts of that movie. Like, I mean, I'm jumping to the end, but like when that freaking Linkin Park song hits and it's like, okay, like, I don't know, for me, like that's like still to this day, like when I could watch, nothing but the last 5 minutes of that movie. And it's like, oh shit, here we go. I know this song's about to kick in.
Yeah. I mean, like the big problem with it as well, like even if you were like, okay, let me go on to YouTube and I just want to watch the Transformers scenes. I want to see the best of Megatron scenes. And they're like, oh, here's all the scenes of Megatron in the first 3 movies, and it'll be like 9 minutes long.
Right.
And that's literally
crazy.
Like, you go on YouTube right now and look up what I just said, and it'll be like all scenes of Megatron, 9 minutes. All scenes of Starscream, 5 minutes. It's like just nothing. And it's
for the trilogy.
Not the 1, not the 2, the trilogy. It's obnoxious as shit. And it's like, how many minutes does Optimus Prime have? Oh, it's like 30. Bumblebee, like 40. Okay, but damn, trilogy.
That is crazy. That for 3 movies, you go on YouTube, all Megatron fight scenes, 9 minutes. Now, do you think that's because of a budget reason? Because like obviously you got to get these CGI guys. You probably have 30 people working on these effects.
No,
because they had like an unlimited budget.
Okay, so it's not a budget.
It's not a budget because IBM.
Yeah. ILM? ILM? Okay.
ILM, they were the ones that made all the CG models.
I didn't know that. Okay.
They did all the CG in the movies. So the thing with them as well is that they created all the models. So all you have to do from that is just animate them to move.
Right.
Animate and render.
And render. And like you have to have just like Hugo Weaving, say a couple lines of random like bullshit.
I smell you, boy.
And then he can do his thing. And it's like, okay, yeah, great. But like the problem is that they just wanted to focus on the humans super badly for some reason. It's like, no, the Transformers are the background characters. They are not the forefront. And that's what everybody wanted.
Can I just throw this out here? I'm pretty sure if you look up the video of just Shia LaBeouf freaking out for the first trilogy, like all the times where he's like running or panicking and going, no. I'm pretty sure that's longer than all the Megatron scenes. Just Shia LaBeouf yelling no, over and over again.
Yeah.
Adds up to like 12 minutes, I think.
Yeah. And it's like more screaming, saying no a couple of times, screaming, okay, yeah, I got the message. Great.
What kills me is in Dottam where his car won't start. And so like any rational adult man, he opens the hood. I mean, of course this is a man thing. If your car breaks down, you got to open the hood and look at it.
Right.
You're like, I don't know the first thing about what's under the hood, but I got to open the hood. That's like being a dude. When a car doesn't work, you at least open the hood and look at it.
Yeah.
But Shia LaBeouf, in all his classy glory, lifts his leg up, like, way up, and just starts stomping on his engine.
Oh my god, man!
Engine. That's his solution. He's like yelling at this car for not starting as he's stomping on the engine. That's what these movies are. Is Shia LaBeouf freaking out and stomping on his engine. Like, not slamming the hood or the doors or throwing the keys or punching the steering wheel. No,
Oh my
stomping
God.
Thing. I'm gonna put this.
If you say you've ever stopped on an engine, we can't be friends.
No, I don't abuse technology. I love Transformers too much. I think my car has feelings. Okay, I'm like right there. No, I'm gonna give you some background info on Mr. Shia LeBeouf. People look at him now and they go, "Oh my God, he's a crazy motherfucker now.
Yep.
He's just some crazy asshole." He wasn't in the beginning, because if you watch behind the scenes or just him in interviews for Transformers 1 and 2, you're like, okay, he seems like a reasonable guy. But as time went on,
His character wasn't written that way.
well, that's Bay. That's Bay. That's
so then
Michael
we
Bay.
have to worry about Michael Bay if his car doesn't start.
Well, he's got money to pay. He'll make somebody else stop. And so, like, by Datum, Shia was basically a Michael Bay number 2. Like, he says that, and like, oh yeah, no, he was just as dickish, just as like, not terrible, I would say, more or less just like, he's just like demanding, and like, we have to do it this way, and we're gonna do it this way, and he knew exactly what Bay wanted, and it's like, that was probably both of them together, like, yeah, I want you to get out of the car and just stomp the fuck out of him.
He's method acting. He's a crazy asshole in real life because he's practicing for the next time they bring him back to a Michael Bay movie.
I mean, literally, all the clickbait articles, they're like, Shia LaBeouf's back with Megan, and I'm like,
well, I'm like looking at his IMDb right now because I'm trying to like think of like what his big thing was. Like, I knew he was in Holes, prior to this, and he did Even Stevens, but those were like his two big things prior to this. So like I could see how, how Transformers, now this is his big kind of movie debut. Transformers 2, same thing, and then all of a sudden it starts getting to his head where he's like, I'm a big deal. I'm Michael Bay number 2, like you said.
That's the problem, though. By 3, usually, when you're like, that's kind of your giant role. Like, Holes was good, Even Steven was good. Like, those were smaller things. But Transformers was so big, and so many people knew about it, that's who you are. That's your person.
Yep.
You are Sam Witwicky. That's who you are. Like, who's another really good example of that as well? It's like
Batman.
McGregor after Star Wars. It's like, no, that's Obi-Wan. That's Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Or like fucking Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. Or Han Solo. It's like, that's who you are. That's
and you hear that like with a lot of people, like Emma Watson, as Hermione, like she's always going to be Hermione, or Daniel Radcliffe. Like, he had a really hard time, like, trying to break out of that Harry Potter, character, because that's what he's known for. So I feel like these actors have, like, some struggles, and then they have kind of this, like, couple, maybe 10 years that go by, and then all of a sudden they're in something. You're like, oh shit, that was this person, that used to play this one. Like, I don't know if I know we're kind of going off on a tangent with Shia LaBeouf, but like, have you watched the new movie Peanut Butter Falcon?
Yes, amazing.
No, I really want to.
It's
really good.
It's phenomenal.
Yes,
like,
amazing.
I have nothing but good things to say about it.
Yep.
And like, even like, I'm looking at his IMDb, and it just kind of like Fury. Like, I don't know if you watch Fury. It's
he
like
was
a tank
good
movie.
in Fury.
Yeah,
he was really good in Fury.
Reasonable human being.
But Peanut Butter Falcon, hands down, is like the epitome of like Shia LaBeouf, like his transition to like like his acting prowess. I mean, it is fantastic. I highly recommend it. But like, he, like, if you didn't watch any of the Transformers movies, like, and you just put on Peanut Butter Falcon, you'd be like, okay, this guy is like a really good actor.
Hasn't he been in more things? And you're
because this held him back probably for however many years.
Yeah, I mean, he, after Transformers, he went after like super minor roles. Like, nobody knew what to do with him. They're like, oh, he's been in these huge blockbuster movies. Bane was done. He was like, I ain't doing another fucking 4. Well, but he was like, I'm not doing a 4 or 5. I'm not doing this shit. And so Megan Fox went to go do Jennifer's Body.
Yes.
He went to go do Jennifer's Body, and then
literally called Jennifer's Body, not Jennifer's scintillating personality. Jennifer's Body. Look, we got Megan LaFox. Isn't she hot? Yeah, that's what this movie
There we
is.
go.
exactly. So it's like, it's a horror movie about a vampire hot lady. Look at her tits.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Don't
get
start dissing her as April O'Neil, or else Steve and I will fight you.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Well, then, she went to go do Turtles. I forgot about
With
that.
Michael Bay.
With
After
Michael
she
Bay.
swore up and down she was never.
She
gonna
wouldn't work with Michael Bay again
Yeah.
because of that whole fiasco when she
Vince
got
was
replaced
like,
with
"Oh."
the English girl with the big lips.
She was like, "Oh yeah, right. I need money. Fuck. I'm gonna go do some movie with some turtles, some other kids franchise. Fuck it."
Oh God! Don't even get.
So some more weird CGI bullshit.
I know.
It's like,
yeah.
So I get it. I get why some of these, why Hollywood's just like, oh, that actor is that. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But like, I honestly, I get where Shia went as a person in real life, where he's just
To
like,
jail?
well, I mean, yes.
Just do it.
Yeah, and just fuck
You visualize your dreams.
Yeah, don't let your dreams be dreams.
Just
do it.
Do it.
Do it. It's like, oh my God, dude. He put up the fucking camera for in 2016. That was like against like anti-Trump. That was like, you will not divide us. You guys ever look up that? Oh yeah, that was a shit show.
Well, what was that one thing he sat in a movie theater and watched all of his movies for 25 hours or something?
Oh, did he do that thing where he like went around with a paper bag over his head?
I mean, like, you watched all of his movies and you see him like
crying,
like slowly degrading from like, oh my God, this was so great, to like tears and sadness. And I'm like, I'm right there with you, man.
You made me cry also.
Yeah,
like, I remember seeing him in I don't know if you guys ever watched this. It was Nymphomaniac. This is weird.
I heard that movie was weird. Yeah.
Yeah, like it is, and it ain't for kids. It is straight up pornographic. Like, it is just like they literally took pornography, took the dude's face out, and slapped Shia LeBeouf's face on it. And I'm not joking. That's a real thing that happened in the movie. Like, and there was 2 of them, and they are.
Wait, you said this was called Rada? Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen?
Well.
No, wait, that was dogs.
Listen. Nymphomaniac had literal fucking. Radif had mind fucking.
No, Rada had literal fucking. There were dogs fucking. And Sam's dad yells at the dogs to stop fucking.
Yeah,
and
the little robot starts humping Megan Fox's leg or something, right?
Yeah, there was plenty of literal fucking.
Yeah.
I gotta get down to the first movie before we delve into Radif.
Can I take the synopsis for Rada?
No, I want to do.
We're still done with the first one. We just got on a huge tangent.
We just went on a whole tantrum.
So,
oh my God, this is hilarious. All right, so what? Hold on. I'm just dying
right now.
Get
back onto the first movie.
All right, where are we?
We're at the scene where the Autobots have come in. They talk about the glasses. They talk about where they came from. They show us big, more dramatic shit. They go to the house, and then Sector 7 shows up. The Autobots leave. They just dip on them. They're just like, fucking bye. You guys are getting taxed by the government. We don't want to do that shit. So
there was an outstanding warrant for Prime not paying his taxes.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm not getting.
No, they figured out that he was a war criminal. And they're like, oh, he's a war criminal. So Sector 7 comes in, and then we get to John Turturro's character, which is like the staple of the movie. Everybody loves his character.
Another crazy, unhinged asshole belongs in a mental institution.
Yes, but I love him for it.
Yeah, one man
alone. Yeah. So John is talking to Sam about the aliens, and talking about like how Megan Fox is a hot criminal, even though she's 16.
Which makes him a criminal.
Which makes him creepy. But He's an FBI agent, so it's okay, I guess.
I'm pretty sure the FBI agents are still not allowed to have sex with mine.
Point is that they run into Prime's foot. Somehow, the guy driving, looking forward, does not see a giant 28-foot tall blue robot. I don't fucking know how he misses that.
He was on his phone.
He was
texting.
He was texting.
He was on Snapchat.
He was like, "It's fine. I can just. The car drives itself. Good. I've got cruise control on."
He was playing Snake. He was playing Snake on his Nokia.
So they hit Prime. Prime, instead of taking the door off and grabbing the humans, no. He grabs the roof of the Escalade and just fucking shakes it off like a baby would with the lid. And then they plop to the ground. The Autobots come out. Jazz takes their weapons because he has magnetic powers or whatever.
That one scene he does.
And then
I
Bumblebee
forgot about that.
They make John Turturro strip down. Bumblebee pisses on him, and then end scene. We now cut to Prime and Michaela and Sam Sam and Michaela getting on Prime's shoulders.
Yep.
Having to run away from Sector 7. And then they go under a bridge. They're on Prime's shoulders. A helicopter comes out. Michaela's
He's like
dumb bitch. She's just slipped. I don't know how she did that. She was on solid ground, robot, but she just falls. And then Sam falls, and Prime kicks them. And then Bumblebee saves them. And then he gets captured. So now we're back to the U.S. military talking more about, like, we got to stop the aliens. There's more aliens. And then we cut to Prime and them, I think, talking about...
I think even Optimus himself.
Talks about
the Allspark. Yeah, the Allspark.
And how before time began, there was the cube.
No, in this scene, okay, so they get taken to the dam. So they get taken. Also, by the way, I forgot to mention that there's an Australian lady with her fat friend that breaks the code to Sector 7. That's how we figure out about them. That was earlier in the movie. I totally forgot about that. This has a lot of shit in it.
Everybody forgot about it. It's fine.
And so they have that. There's your other side story of random Australian lady. By the way, there's your fourth main story.
Oh my god.
And that I just completely moved over because
Who cares?
And so after that, they
listen.
go to
If it's not Crocodile Dundee, I don't even want to know about it. So.
Yeah, she's not as entertaining as him.
There we go.
And so they go to the dam. They see Megatron. Shia LeBeouf schools John Turturro on his real name. John Turturro gets mad that Sam will not use his acronyms. And then they move on. They go into the little room, or the big ass room with the Allspark.
Yep.
They test out the Energon energy, and on a Nokia, it starts shooting.
Yeah.
On a Nokia.
Yeah.
So now all of our characters
Here we go.
are all meeting. The
Yes. Here we go.
Sector 7, Australian lady and her fat friend, Sam and Michaela are here. We're all here.
Jake, is this the climax? We're getting to the
climax.
all right. We're getting to the climax of the film. All right.
This is the end of the beginning of the film.
Yeah. And then Frenzy, which was Michaela's phone, finds the Allspark, gets a new body, warns the Decepticons where the Allspark is and where Megatron is, hacks into the system, starts shutting everything down. The Decepticons attack the dam, so everybody has to take the cube to a heavily populated city for some reason.
There's no explanation.
Fucking robots are going to destroy the city. Instead of
maximum collateral damage.
I want to let you guys know there's a fucking desert that they pass through to get to the city. And instead of them getting on some on-ramp to get to the desert, I'm like, nah, fuck that city.
No, fuck that. We're gonna have our final battle breaking these
No,
bills.
it pays to be in that city, okay? That city's coming out of people's tax dollars. We're going there. We're gonna fuck it up. So they go there. The Autobots and everybody have a giant battle. Megatron rips Jazz in half, which you probably know how I felt holding the Jazz toy in my hand because I was like, favorite character. The fuck does that mean now? So then Prime really wants to just die, I guess. He is like,
He just wants to die.
he's like, Sam, fucking kill me, please.
He's like, this movie is awful. Just kill me now.
And then they start fighting again. Him and Megatron finally fight. We're like, oh shit, it's Hugo as Megatron, which is, by the way, amazing. We love Frank Walker because he's our original
Yep.
Megatron. But Hugo Weaving's performance, fucking phenomenal, dude.
Mm-hmm.
It is amazing. I love Hugo Weaving.
I preferred him as Elrond in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, because you're a nerd.
I'm a Transformers nerd. I'm just being objective about it.
Yeah. At least you got to see Hugo more than fucking 5 minutes. So, at the end of the movie, Sam shoves the cube into Megatron's chest, and then he dies, and then the Linkin Park scene, music comes on, and movie is done.
Starscream escapes into outer space. We clearly see Starscream
Yes,
a
after credits.
U.S. Air Force Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor aircraft, which you too can fly if you join the Air Force and are incredibly lucky and have 20/20 vision.
But it's got tattoos or markings on it that aren't.
No, that's later.
That's wrong.
Oh,
That's
okay.
later.
So okay.
All right, so you know what I gotta say? We've been podcasting for an hour and 11 minutes. Jake, you just said this movie in like 20 something? Like this movie was almost 3 hours long.
So you know what just happened, Steve? We just Michael Bay'd this podcast.
Yeah, random bullshit and tangents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went off on a tangent about Shia LeBeouf for like 45 minutes.
Wait, does this mean that like 100 million people are going to watch our podcast now?
I hope so.
People, and then we're going to be hired as directors, and we're going to do the exact same shit. We won't be
Oh,
As long as Megan Fox shows up, I'm happy.
They're like, "Hey man, come on over, make a movie," and I'm like, "I don't know what to do," and they're like, "Yeah, same."
Hey, come over. We're making a podcast. Yeah, we don't know what we're doing.
So all right, so the movie ends, and now, how do you guys feel once this movie's over? What you just saw.
As a kid, I was like, "That was the best fucking movie." Different. As an adult, I'm like, "Yeah, I'll watch the scenes of the Transformers on YouTube separately."
because it'll only take you 5 minutes.
It'll only take me 5 minutes instead of watching 2.5 hours worth of garbage. Yes.
To this day, I'm like, this is simultaneously cool and dumb as hell. Like like if I were to go back and rewatch parts of it or the whole thing, I would definitely feel like a little dirty. Like it would be like a guilty pleasure. Like I can unironically sit and watch cartoons all day long if it's like Beast Wars or Transformers Prime or Exo Squad or the original He-Man, really any He-Man series, all He-Man series.
Yep.
Weird because I was never into that. But this one, I'm like, I don't want anybody to see me watching the Transformers. Like I got a reputation to maintain as a discerning Transformers fan.
I think it's interesting though because like before we started this podcast, I was like, oh yeah, Transformers. Like I really enjoyed that movie. Like and you know like the CGI aspects of it. But now as we're talking about it, I'm like, man, that movie really sucks. Like you know, like I've never kind of chopped a movie up like this that I'm like I really didn't have any feels for it. You know, like other than it was a cool movie. Like I'm like, all right, you know. But now I'm like, shit, you're right. There was that, like, where the fuck are the Transformers? You know, like, you know.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff missing from it. Now, let me ask you guys this. How do you feel about the designs, the character designs? Since they don't look like they're '80s, original designs. How do you guys feel about that?
I, for one, am a big proponent of switching it up. Like, there's a lot of people in the Transformers community that are hardcore G1 cartoon. That's the only aesthetic that they want. But I
Right.
recognize that you're not going to bring young blood into a franchise by doing the same thing over and over and over. Star Wars. And so, like, if these movies weren't different from G1, they
Yep.
would be here hanging out with us right now.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm like, there's nitpicks I have. Like, I don't like the Decepticons where their face just looks like a butthole with eyes. But as far as like the complex like structures of like it allows them to look almost more organic at the same time as looking like an alien robot.
Yeah.
I can get into that. I think sometimes they go too far, but as a general like experiment of let's make them look like the car splits into 5 million pieces that then rearrange to make a robot.
Yeah.
I'm down with that
Yeah.
idea as a concept.
Yeah. I have to completely agree because, I mean, when I was a kid, I was on the brink of just like switching it over to like Gundam. I was just like, screw this, I'm done with Transformers because Cybertron. Looking back on it now as an adult, I'm like, no, Cybertron was amazing as a toy line, but there was the cartoon wasn't good,
Yeah.
so I didn't really have anything to gravitate toward. And so, like as a kid, when I saw the new movie stuff, I was like, whoa, it looks like they're real. Like as a 10-year-old kid, when I saw the movie, I actually thought that those characters were real for a split second. I was like, oh man, I wonder how they're going to get Optimus in the next movie. He got really hurt. And my mom was like,
paid him. They covered his health insurance.
oh,
He has mass health.
They were like, my mom was like, no, they're not real. They're CG. I was like, oh, okay, thank God. But I was like, oh, damn, these designs are very, very, very different. I have a huge bias to this as well because I grew up with them, and that was like, this was my Optimus Prime as a kid.
Right.
This was my Optimus. That was my Megatron. This was my Ironhide. This was my shit. And so when like people are like, they look like horrible garbage, I'm like, yeah, but at least it doesn't look like cardboard boxes on a dude with like the truck face, and that's it.
Right.
Like there are tires, there are windows, there are like internal parts. There is bullshit on Optimus.
They can urinate.
Somehow they can pee. I don't know how
they are also very expressive. Like the fact that the faces are like this myriad of little tiny parts. Like the pupils can dilate, and Optimus Prime has eyebrows that go down when he's being extra serious. Like those designs have the capability to be very expressive.
Yeah.
If they would have given them any screen time of their faces talking.
Like Optimus Prime having like eyelids in a way, like he has like these little pieces of metal that kind of like blink.
Right.
Or his optics. And it's like, wow, that added so much for literally one scene that I saw of it.
Well, it was. I think they focused a lot of that on Bumblebee because Bumblebee, couldn't, had the sound stuff, and Bumblebee's eyes and his eyebrows and stuff like that. I think like where you're comparing it to, like where you're like, this was your childhood. Like Steve and I could probably compare that to like Turtles. Like, when we think of Turtles, we think of the 80s film, like, and it's like, if we watched a Turtles movie now, we're like, oh shit, that's nothing compared to this. So like what you're saying is like, this was my childhood. Like, I totally get that. And it's hard to like, say like, there's so much like emotion involved in that because like now you're looking back on it and you're like, man, as a 10-year-old, you're holding that jazz figure in your hand and you're like, this is my shit, just like when Steve and I went to the theater and saw, freaking Ninja Turtles and we're like, oh man, like when Raphael is hurt, you're like, oh my God, like he's in the bathtub, is he gonna make it, and you're just like, shit, so like it's funny how we get emotionally involved and invested into this this stuff like at such a young age, and it imprints on us for like years and years to come.
Yeah. Oh, quick. Aaron, do you have to head to work soon, by the way?
Yeah, probably like 20 minutes.
Okay, cool. We're gonna finish up pretty soon. So, all right. So here we go. In you guys' opinion, on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you rate this movie?
I'd give it a solid like 5 or 6
Okay.
because it rides that line of being really good in some parts and really bad in some parts, and it just rides that line of mediocre. And a lot of people have kind of the same opinion. That's why if you look on like Rotten Tomatoes or whatever, sometimes it's not the best website to go to, but everybody's like great with the like audience scores. Like people love seeing big dumb action. But then you look at the critics score, and it's just like 50%, and it's just like right there on that line of like you were pretty good. You had some bad things though, but you did solid like C, just boom.
Yeah.
No C plus or minus, just boom. C.
I'm gonna rate all 5 based on
Okay.
just for context. 2007 movie, I give it a solid 4 or 5. Rada, 2. Gotham, like 6 or 7. AOE, 3. And The Last Night, -5.
Oh my.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, Tilk is the worst thing in the world.
That's a story for another time.
Yeah, that's another show. What about you, Aaron?
So, well, I just want to point something out. For, like, as a Star Wars fan, like, like I say, ROTJ, and ESB, and like, but like, it's funny. Like, I never thought of like the little acronyms for the Transformers movies. Like you say, like Rodham and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm having to process it. I'm like, what does that stand for? And I'm like, oh shit, like. So it's cool that like I didn't know that there were these little like acronyms for it.
Oh yeah, we have acronyms and nicknames for everything, and I don't know if that's just us because we do this all day, every day, or if other people do it. Like, definitely written out, you'll see ROTF, but it's like, no, verbal shorthand, movie, Rodham, Gotham, AOE, Tilk.
Yeah, and then like Bumblebee. That's it.
Yeah.
And then
Bumblebee.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give my rating before this conversation and after this conversation. So before this conversation, I would rate it like a 7. Like I enjoyed it. After this conversation, I'm gonna rate it like a 4. Because the more I'm processing it, and the more like the more points that were made, is like it's a Transformers movie, and you see Transformers for 20 minutes of the movie. Like as when I watched the movie as a young adult, I guess I would be, I don't know, I guess I was 21 at that time, 22. I guess I was like, oh cool, it's a Transformers movie. But like now I'm like, well, it's a Shia LaBeouf, Megan Fox with a sprinkle of Transformers, So
Yeah, that's interesting perspective, how much this has brought you around on it. I've had that experience with other movies where it's like, I'm like, oh, that felt good. And like, I enjoyed the spectacle of it.
yeah.
But then as soon as I like go back and like analyze it, I'm like, oh, what have I done?
But I also
James Cameron Avatar is one of those where it's like when I watched it, I'm like, oh, that was fun. I like that. Pretty colors and all the blue lights. You got the evil bad guy. And then afterwards, I'm like, that was dumb. Fern Gully is objectively a better film.
So here's one of those correlations of like what you grew up with and like how invested you get. Avatar to me was Fern Gully. And I think a lot of people make that correlation if you've ever watched Fern Gully, because there's a giant tree. There's big bad guys that are trying to cut down the giant tree. There's indigenous people that live in this giant tree, and like, so like for me, and like when they're running through the water and things are lighting up, and Avatar, she's running through the forest and all the mushrooms are lighting up. You're like, oh shit, this is freaking Fern Gully, So it's funny how you make those correlations as a kid that kind of stick with you when you watch them later on. But like as I'm processing this, I'm like, oh shit, this isn't a good movie.
Well, here's the other thing though. Here's the other thing to consider. You're 7 before you sat down and analyzed this movie with 3 other guys for an hour.
Yeah.
Your 7 was enough to get you to buy that next ticket, and that's what they're counting on. They don't care what we think 15 years later, being like, well, this is actually bad because blah 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 blah. They're like, no, we want you to be like, oh, that was fun. I'd do that again. Great. Here it is again. Do it again. Do it again. And another one. And another one. And then it's like, by Transformers 5 the last night, you're like, okay, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 4 times, shame on... I'm not seeing your 5th fucking movie, okay?
So,
I'm not doing it.
Look,
Mr. Prime's here. Okay, I'll go see your 5th movie.
Yeah. I stopped at the trilogy. I didn't watch The Last Night or
Good on you.
Yes.
Good on you, because I got suckered in fucking 5 times until I got a new director, and I was like, okay, you got me. What's the Bumblebee? And I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
So Age of Extinction intrigued me, but it didn't intrigue me enough to go like buy a ticket. You know, like I was.
We call this one of our shop terms is we call it Age of Excretion. You're welcome.
Okay.
Well,
So Age of Excretion intrigued me, but not to the point where I bought a ticket because I was like, oh shit, the Dinobots, right? Like that was kind of like that big draw. And before this, because I'm like, oh shit, we're going to probably talk about all the movies. And it's funny, we're 2 hours in and we talked about one movie. I was watching kind of like some recaps, like some reviews on Age of Extinction and The Last Night. And I was like, I'm glad I didn't watch these movies. You know, because I was like, I would be highly disappointed. Although, I guess like the main protagonist in Age of Extinction was like this really cool, badass guy. But it was kind of like, I don't know how he fits into the Transformers universe. So,
yeah, I mean, for Age of Extinction, I got suckered in because I was the same as you. Dinobots, holy shit! Dinobots are going to be on the on the big screen, live action. And then I watched the movie, and I'm like, there were no fucking Dinobots. They were in there for literally, I bet you, 30 seconds. They hyped them. Okay, we could talk about hyping for a second.
Yeah.
Transformers movies are the worst with hyping. Like, at least in Star Wars, when they're like, oh, look, it's Kylo Ren. You're like, oh, shit, it's Kylo Ren. They're like, here, it's Kylo Ren. He's in the fucking movie. With Transformers, they're like, hey, look, it's Devastator. Devastator's so badass. And you're like, oh, I love Devastator. He looks like a giant monster. And they're like, we got him in there for 2 minutes. And it's like, oh, fuck yeah, that was a horrible 2 minutes. And then they're like, okay, fooled you again. Here's Shockwave and Dada. Yeah, Shockwave. And we're all like, yeah, I love Shockwave. And then they're like, look, he's in the movie for 2 minutes. And it's like, what, man?
Even your like, so this is reminding me of something Star Wars related. Patton Oswalt did this thing, and even your voice inflections when you were saying that is like spot on. So like Patton Oswalt said this thing about like the prequels, and he's like, you know, when George Lucas made the prequels, oh, you want to see Darth Vader? You know, like, yeah, fuck yeah, we want to see Darth Vader. Oh, you're going to see him as a little kid, you know? And then, like, episode 2, oh, you want to see Boba Fett? Oh, yeah, we fucking love Boba Fett. Yeah, you're going to see him as a little kid, you know? And it was like, he does this, Patton Oswalt, if you haven't listened to it, it's like a 5-minute skit.
Supposed to see in the 3rd prequel as a little kid.
I don't know. No little kids in the 3rd prequel. So,
like, murdered little kids.
Anakin murdered
some little kids. See Darth Vader's victims. Here they are. They're little kids.
So if you haven't listened to that, it's definitely worth a listen. It's like a little 5-minute. It was part of like one of his stand-up routines, and it is hilarious. But like, it's crazy how like, you know, you think about like how this all tries to go together, and it's nuts.
You know what I would rather watch? Like Jake, when you were saying like, oh look, it's Devastator, but he's only on for like 30 seconds. they should just re-edit the films, and this is what I want to watch. Okay, this to me will make the movie even great. If like, oh look, it's Devastator. Cut to just a green screen, Jake's hand with an actual Devastator toy. That would have been like for me, like, oh, this is awesome.
I like Godzilla where it's just like
Yeah.
completely shitty dubbed over. The voice doesn't match the lips at all.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, it's Devastator, and it's just that for 30 minutes. Just me smashing cardboard boxes with a toy, and the movie ends with a Linkin Park song, and we're done.
Yeah. Well, do you guys? It just kind of reminded me like it's a band called the Cybertronic Spree. Do you guys know about them?
Yeah, I love them. They're really
Okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So like I could see like the green screen and like you guys dressing up as like the Devastator and like being like, okay, now we're gonna like reenact this, you know.
Oh God! Wow.
Oh man, listen, we've been on for almost 2 hours right now, and we only got the first film.
Can I give you the 30-second synopsis, rapid fire of all 5 movies?
Oh yes, go right ahead.
Okay, movie 1. The Transformers come to Earth because the Allspark cube that they just launched into space happened to land here, and Megatron happened to crash here when he was looking for it, and they fight over the cube. Movie 2. The Transformers happened to be on Earth thousands of years ago building a machine that would destroy the sun to steal its energy, and that happened to be here, and so then they fight over the machine. Movie 3. Sentinel Prime happened to come here with a bunch of devices that could bring Cybertron to our solar system and destroy the Earth to fuel Cybertron. That just happened to be on the moon, and they fight over it. Movie 4. The Transformers just happened to be here in ancient times, disguising themselves as the dinosaurs that were around at that time. And I don't... What? Bullshit.
No, that didn't happen.
And they fight over it. And also,
They fight over the dinosaurs.
You know,
there's a bad guy that's a bounty hunter from space, and he's all cool and edgy and shit.
he's angry in a Lamborghini. We get it.
And then movie 5, I don't know, but some important... Oh, that Earth happens to be... Is it Unicron? And it just happens that Earth formed billions of years ago from Unicron, and now he's coming to life, and he's going to destroy the Earth, and they fight over it. All of these things, just like everything in the Transformers universe, an empire spanning the stars for millions of years, all of their important cultural and military artifacts and history happen to land on Earth. And so they have to come here to fight over it.
Well, it's like every action movie that blows up New York. You know, how many times has New York been blown up in all the action?
There's a lot of internet memes about every time aliens invade the Earth, and it's like the alien UFO, and it'll be like floating over the globe, and the globe is just the continental United States surrounded by ocean.
Right, yeah.
Which at least Transformers go to other countries. They go to China and England and Egypt and America and a different part of America
and the ocean.
And the ocean.
Yeah, the San Andreas Fault, right? Or what is it? Yeah.
Where do they fight at the end of Tilt? Where is it that all the chunks of rock are flying into the sky because of reasons?
It's near. Is
that like Stonehenge?
Where
or
the
some
fuck is
stupid
Stonehenge?
shit? England.
Yeah, but there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, it's England.
So U.S. and its allies plus Egypt and China.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, listen, guys, this was. Whew. First of all, Jake, thank you for that amazing summary. Jake, you need your own TV show. It's called Jake at the Movies, and it's just you summarizing films so that people don't have to waste their time watching these awful, awful movies.
I want it to be like Mystery Science Theater 3000, except if I was watching Transformers, like during Rodolph, I would just get up and piss on the screen. And I'd be like, all right, review's over, and that's like the first 30 seconds, and then it's just black screen for the rest of the hour. Just the next hour is just a black screen. With like me fumbling around saying fuck because the lights are off.
So how many years was it before Roddiff come out, and how old were you when you saw Roddiff?
I was 12. It was 2 years. Yeah, so each movie went from like 2 years with its like continuous age. So it was like 07, 09, 2011, and then Age of Extinction
14.
came with 3 years later with 14,
Yeah.
and then Tilt came another 3 years later in 2017.
So when you left this movie, you said you thought this was the shit. Like 10 years old, you thought this was like the. How did now? I'm gonna skip ahead. How were you when you left as a 12-year-old after Roddiff?
Oh, dude, same thing. I was
Okay.
completely blindsided by dumb action. I was like, oh yeah, that was the best thing in the fucking world. And now I'm like an adult, and I'm like, oh my god, that was the worst thing.
Well, so that was my question, because I didn't know at 12. Like at 12, I thought you were like, oh fuck, I'm gonna piss on this movie. Like as a 12-year-old, like, I just pictured you as 12 walking out like so angry, being like, Mom, I hate Transformers. But
no,
like,
it should be the opposite. I was so happy that I literally pissed on the screen. I was like, I had to hold it the entire time, and I was like, I can't leave.
So before we leave, is there anything that you guys want to tell the audience before watching this first film? Like anything at all, like or any other Transformer movie? What would be like your, let's say, like a tip for anybody that's either wants to watch it or like what would you tell the audience members?
Go in with low expectations.
Okay.
If you go in with low expectations, you will be happier. You'll be like, oh, so that was a little bit better than I thought it was. Maybe not for like 2 and 5, or 4, but you'll be like, oh, okay, that wasn't that bad. I get you. Okay, yeah, no, that's fair. Gotcha, cool. But if you like go in, you're like, oh, it's Transformers. Because Transformers is so fucking cool. You're gonna go out of there and be like, how the fuck did they make 6 movies? How did that happen? Like that's how you will come out watching any of these movies.
see, like I said, after this, like talking about it, my expectations have definitely been lowered. But like we didn't even talk about 2. But I like 2. Because I think I like one character in 2, and like just I like just that's it. That's the only thing I can think of is just that one scene, Agent Simmons and one man, on a mission, whatever. And like, when he's talking to that, what is it? The freaking USS Enterprise or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, you have a rail gun, technology, fire that thing at the pyramid, like, I don't know. So like before we talk about that one, I probably like that one, and then we're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna be like, I hate this movie sucks.
Listen, just to set you up for Roddiff.
Okay.
This was written during the writer's strike of 2010 or 2008 actually. 2008 because it takes them a whole like couple months to actually get everything for writing and scripts and everything. It takes them a while to write the whole movie. This was written during the writer's strike.
Oh man!
So Bay himself had Aaron Kruger come in with the spec script that was the ideas for 2 from Alex Kurtzman and said, "Hey, write a script."
So wait, you're saying that the movie comes off as not like a written script, but a series of ideas, kind of like we talked about.
No, it's like poetry. It rhymes. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, Roddiff is the most cohesive movie ever. It's totally not dog shit. That Roddiff was written during a bad time, and instead of them doing something different or halting the movie, they said, no, fuck it, you're going to make that movie. And Faye was like, all right, I guess. And so he wrote most of the script. And that's why if you rewatch Roddiff or when I explain it, you're going to be like, I'm going to have an aneurysm.
I'm going to go jump off a bridge.
It's like constant noise, just being filtered out with the blue and orange tint.
But I'm Googling it. It made more than the first movie.
Yes.
And this is because you gave
Oh,
the
my.
first one a 7 after you first watched it.
Okay,
The second one. And
so
it
let's
doesn't
test
matter
that
what
theory.
you think of the movie. You already bought the ticket.
Now look up the score for how much money they made for Gotham, because that shows how bad product was.
That's exactly. I was gonna say. Let's test the theory, because that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
But it says Dottom grossed over 1.1 billion.
Oh, that might have been China.
Oh, wow.
That was AOE that it finally broke.
Wow.
It says Dark of the Moon is grossed over 1.1 billion worldwide and is the 27th highest grossing film of all time.
Well, here's my advice. Getting back to Steve's question, here's my advice.
So, was Revenge of the Fallen that bad?
Yes.
I'm gonna say it to you in one simple sentence: dog fucking. Aaron.
I trust you. We're talking to the fans that have never seen a Transformers movie or never played.
Here's my advice. Don't watch that shit. Go to Transformerland.com and buy some Transformers from the good series. Hell, buy the movie toys. Rodolph had some great toys, and we have them all available at Transformerland.
Rodolph has awesome fucking toys, and it's one of the worst movies.
Yeah.
But going back on that, you said what was it? Cybertron was a horrible animated series. Sorry, I hit my mic. Animated series, but the toys were fantastic. So it seems like there's always this balance of shitty TV but awesome toys, or shitty movie but awesome toys.
No, there's not, because the series. So Cybertron is also part of a trilogy, and the middle season of that trilogy was called Energon, and it's widely regarded as the worst Transformers cartoon, serialized cartoon, and also the toys are not good.
Yep.
Gotcha.
They're not like poor quality, but they're poor designs.
Yeah.
They're not that fun. They look like ass. I actually had the theory you have, where the movie one, my initial impression of movie one was it was pretty all right. Like, walking out of the theater, I would have probably given it a 6 instead of a 4. And the toys were also pretty fun. Rodolph, the movie was way worse, but the toys were way better. And then Dottom, the movie was way better, and then the toys were way worse. But then they broke it because for Age of Excretion, the movie was excretion, and the toys were also excretion. So they broke that balance.
The mold, right?
But yeah, there's if you're lucky, there's a correlation between good toys and good like a video franchise, whether it's a film or whether it's a cartoon or whatever media tells the story. But sometimes it's the opposite, and sometimes it's just kind of a crapshoot. And
Right.
The movies, it kind of correlated inversely until the fourth one.
Yeah.
Although then the last night, the movie was the worst 3.5 hours of my life, but the toys were actually really solid.
Yeah.
Well,
It's weird how this happens. You might want to put a disclaimer, Steve, to be like, this is a long episode.
yeah, I'm going to have to put a disclaimer. Long episode. Spoiler
It's a long
alert.
episode, but it's not as long as the movies.
Yes.
And it's also more fun than the movie.
It is more fun than the movie.
I don't know. I wouldn't put myself up that high in the comments.
It's more coherent than Tilt.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fair.
Well, I want to say thank you to everybody for watching this, and don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube for Zero Box Prize Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Zero Box Prize Podcast, and also Transformerland.com. Jake or Ben, would you guys want to plug that? Even though there was a plug already, but
I was shameless. I had to slip that in there. Transformerland.com. We are the #1 source for Transformer toy information and the biggest Transformers store on the internet. We have movie toys, if that's your flavor. If you are into classic G1 only, we always have tons of classic G1 in pristine condition. And basically anything with a Transformers logo on it, we will sell. Plus all the other toy lines we talked about this episode. We carry Star Wars, Ninja Turtles, He-Man. It's all there. Transformerland.com.
And with that, I want to thank Aaron again. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank Ben and Jake for joining us as well. And guys, like these guys just said, if you want to go out there and watch these movies and just melt your brain, then go ahead and melt your brain. But if you just want to go on YouTube and just see Megatron fight for 9 minutes, then
or
do
see
that
Shia LeBeouf saying no, 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 no.
Or just come and just watch the podcast where we talk about it, because it is a little bit more fun than just having your brain melting. But with that, I just want to say thank you to these guys again for another great episode, and we will see you next time.